I think that there's a fun relationship in motivation where dopamine is the neurochemical that motivates or results in motivation and action. And then cortisol is the neurochemical that results in stress.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something that pushes and pulls us there. So you're right. If someone's way too relaxed about everything, then they don't have enough cortisol. And that results in them not doing anything because there's no push.
Yeah.
And then maybe people that are far too strung up on things have an influx of cortisol to dopamine ratio. So they actually don't have enough dopamine active to motivate them. And the cortisol takes over and stresses them out. And there's this paralysis by analysis where there's too much to do. So you don't do anything at all. And you just kind of sit there and lay back in your little mind dungeon.
Yeah.
So I think that it's interesting that you mentioned that, and there has to be some way for people to find a way to motivate themselves. I mean, I'm a huge negative visualizer, and I'm pretty neurotic by nature, even though I'm also super optimistic about things. So anytime that anything happens, I'm normally thinking about the worst case scenario and what could be the worst case. Every now and then I'll sleep on the floor because I have to remind myself that I've slept on the floor before and I need to be prepared to sleep on the floor again. So I think that there's this relationship where if you're too relaxed, maybe you need to think about things that push you and make you anxious. And then if you're too anxious, you need to focus more on those things. You need to relax. And it's kind of this Jungian idea of wherever you're at on any given spectrum, you have to find a way to bridge the gap to the other side of the spectrum, or take on the frame of mind of someone on the other side of the spectrum, so that you can develop a relationship in between those things that is beneficial for you. And I would even relate it to volleyball or any other athletics, where it's that honesty with yourself about what you're good and bad at, and moving towards the thing that you're bad at while also acknowledging the thing that you're good at and using that to motivate you forward.
Yeah. And I agree completely. And I like kind of what you mentioned just about when we were talking about the overuse and underuse, like when you get, like when you're working crazy, or like if you've never worked hard and you've never because like with us in volleyball, we always wanted to work really hard to where we were good at that. With your podcast and what you got going now, me and you are kind of going through the same thing, ironically, which is sweet, because now there's somebody else I know who's doing it as well. Like when I started my podcast, I got like crazy into it, like obsessive with it, where I was like, man, like it was like a whole refreshing, because I've always been motivated for volleyball, but that's been 12 years now. It's a little more dry than what it was when I first was motivated to get into it. And now with the podcast thing, like, was a fresh take. Like it was freshly motivating. I was like, man, this is sick, and just kind of went after it. And that's the thing. So it's like, if I had never had that taste of it with volleyball or with baseball or with like getting my degree or like doing things to make my relationship good with my fiance or with my parents, like if I had never had something to get me motivated at the start, you would never like really strive to keep doing things that motivate you. Like you were saying, like you just won't work or you won't do anything because of that imbalance, and you don't want to do anything. So it's like you have to at least do some sort of work or something, because that just keeps building it up and it gets you excited about other things. So yeah.